When I was a little kid, my mother, she would let me run up and down the hallway with crayons. And I would have crayons on both sides and just running and just drawing on the wall. And it was super exciting. I'm John Hitchcock, and I'm Kiowa and Comanche descent on my mother's side, and on my father's side, I'm Northern European. I'm a professor at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. I'm a musician, I'm an artist, as well as an educator. Impact versus influence is about where I'm from in Oklahoma. I grew up on Comanche tribal lands next to Fort Sill and also the Wichita Mountains. So Highway 49 separates our land where I grew up from Fort Sill, the largest field artillery training base in the United States. And the Wichita Mountains is a wild reserve for deer, elk, buffalo, prairie dogs. So as a child, I would go and basically play in those mountains, and they're very important to the Kiowa, Comanche, Apache, and other tribes that are in that location. So Fort Sill was an army post that was set up as pretty much a place where indigenous leaders were pushed or ended up there or imprisoned there. And so Fort Sill housed Geronimo of the Apache people, St. Dide of the Kiowa people, and Quanah Parker of the Comanche people. As a kid, when I got into making art, I was, 6, 7, 8. So my kaku, my Comanche grandmother, she'd say, okay, I want you to draw some designs. And so these designs I was drawing were influenced by the beadwork she was making. And after you draw that, I want you to go outside and I want you to draw the roses. And then she would take that drawing, set it down, and she'd say, okay, I want you to make something up. You design your design based on what you've learned from going outside and also drawing these. So she was teaching me how to use my imagination, how to think about and kind of bring my imagination together to the things I observed. The installation, it is very much influenced by the symbolism of Kiowa, Comanche, beadwork, and looking at the designs and patterns. There's an hourglass that you see that references time from the past, present to the future, and in how we think about time, and how are we dealing with time, and what are we doing about time. You've got these animal heads that are almost like spirits. They're ghostly, they're drawn with all this cross-hatching, and they have these voids in their eyes, and they look as if they have passed on. And so it's, to me, a reference to the spiritual need, the spiritual belief systems that I grew up with. So these are complex questions that I think about in the work, and that I'm always looking at ways to present it so that a viewer would be able to look at that and do the research and start to think about what's the relationship of this tank or this helicopter to this bird that's flying through these butterfly. The military and its relationship with war and violence is complex for Native people because of the fact that many Plains tribes come from warrior societies. Indigenous people have the highest amount of service in the military, larger than any other demographic. One of the unique things you think about within military and its relationship to Indigenous culture is some of the military vehicles and helicopters and tanks and such are named after Indigenous tribes. The installation, there's the Apache helicopter. There's also a Comanche helicopter that's not in this installation, but there's also a Kiowa helicopter as well. It's all about survival. And so why Indigenous people serve is for survival, and survival of the people and survival of the land. And as a youth, for me, hearing helicopters flying over, hearing bombs outside, the war is outside my window. It's right across the street. So in my little protective room, I'm using my crayons and I'm putting paper on the wall and I'm creating war scenes. And that's the beginning of this notion of breaking space and having this ability to place things on a wall. And this is just a giant drawing to me, going up into the ceiling, going around on the walls and bringing attention to various aspects of places you're normally not looking. What I would want someone to take away from this artwork, impact versus influence, is complexity. And the complexity of the environment we live in, and the chaos of all of the information that we're constantly being bombarded with, and the idea of the hopeful small moments that you may find in that chaos.